everybody. Welcome to episode 51 of the Ascendant Art Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Creative Little Chad, and I'm joined as always by Slender Dad. What's up, Slender?
Hey, what's up? I'm confused because I'm looking at our stream in the other window here, and Welsh Republic has a broken link.
Oh, well, I don't know. That's StreamYards.
Weird.
I blame StreamYards.
I've never seen it before.
We do have a guest with us, Welsh Republic.
How
are you?
Out on a very cool Welsh dragon coat of arms looking thing.
Yeah,
I'm very good, thanks, little Chad and Slender Dad. I'm just, had a good day, done a lot of cleaning around where I live, went for a walk. The weather here is a bit rainy, but apart from that, yeah, a pleasure to be here.
You are in another portion of the world, correct? Like it was, if I remember, New Zealand, right?
Correct.
Oh, there you go. That's according to The Simpsons, which I have never thought was wrong about anything. New Zealand is where the toilets flush the other direction, so that's scientific fact.
I remember that episode of Simpsons. That was a funny episode. That was.
Isn't that like any country below the equator, though? Like.
Is it? I don't know.
Or it's just specific to New Zealand?
Well, in Australia, New Zealand, all the places where England used to send their, prisoners.
Even the water in the toilets rebelled.
No, yeah. That was fun. So we're gonna have a nice, just fun episode tonight, like we usually do. We have some streaming ratings lined up because it's Thursday, and Nielson is kind enough to release their streaming ratings on the day we record our episode, which is awesome. We're gonna have some, fun with looking at if Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. God, that's still such a stupid title.
It's so awful. The Rings of Power is.
Yeah, it's just because it repeats, right? Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Like that's a lot of rings in one, like go around. I think I remember from grammar, grammar class, that you weren't supposed to repeat words that close together. Slender, is that what you recall as well?
Yeah, it's called redundancy, and I mean, they teach you how not to do that in fucking middle school.
Oh man!
Like, just call it Lord of the Rings: Rise of Sauron or something. Like we all knew.
Yeah. I mean, that was the worst kept secret, was that dude was, Sauron, and that Galadriel was going to try to fix him.
But, yeah, I don't understand. It's such a shame that they couldn't get the rights to do the Silmarillion and like bring Morgoth in and like have that fight scene with. I think who's the in the book series, who's the elf that Morgoth fights that was really, really big?
Joey, Slender, you're gonna have to go on that one because
I can't help you. I'm not on the Silmarillion. I've never read it.
So I tried the Silmarillion, and it felt so much like a textbook, where it was just like hitting like matter of fact like points, like bam, bam, bam. I just couldn't get into it. So,
but that's the war that preceded what we saw in the Rings of Power, right?
Yeah, that is. I think that is one of them. Not technically, in a way.
The Silmarillion, I think, covers basically the entire first age, which from the creation of the universe to
the music of the Ivanor, and then like the Ilúvatar's creation, the creation of the elves, the creation of the humans, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a very deep, like, if you want to talk about deep lore, that's some deep lore, is what was going on in the Silmarillion. It was clearly our boy Tolkien was giving lots and lots of thought to what he wanted the background of his universe to be. He wasn't just making it up on the fly, which
that's a big part of world building, and like that's why Tolkien is essentially a masterclass in world building. Like that wasn't part of the story, but you have to build that history, and it doesn't necessarily ever show up in a book, but he had it. He had so much that, like, I guarantee you, he probably had notebooks upon notebooks filling an entire shelf just with information about his world that never made it into any of the books.
Yeah, I know that a whole bunch of Tolkien scholars talk about like his letters and his just unpublished documentation of his world. So I agree completely that, and that's what a real creator does, right? They become obsessed with their own creation, and that's cool. And that's, I feel like if I look at some of the Marvel comic book stuff and what's going on there, or even Marvel movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Wakanda Forever is opening up this week. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but I doubt that a lot of the people who are creating things, like especially She-Hulk, like She-Hulk is a great example. I really don't think any of these creators were like living and breathing what they were making. Like they did not love the content and like in that way.
No, I'd agree with you. It, like, to pull out and just like really go macro on it, it seems like a lot of the people who get hired on as writers for these projects at this point, they have like maybe one or two good stories in their heads that they really want to tell. But they try and shoehorn their story into a popular IP so that they can have a pre-constructed audience to show it to. And they have no passion for the story that they get hired onto. And it's like, you don't hire someone who is either, hateful or indifferent to your project to work on your project. Like, and obviously Rings of Power is probably the big one, but last year I think we talked about this briefly in one of our episodes where they were starting work on Knights of the Old Republic 2. Like they were doing a new KOTOR and everybody was super stoked. And I was like, there's a very big red flag right at the beginning, because the writer that they hired, she openly said, I didn't like Knights of the Old Republic. Then why the fuck are you the head writer on a Knights of the Old Republic project?
Knights of the Old Republic is a beloved game. I don't think I ever heard.
It is in one of the most popular Star Wars games I think that's ever been made.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say a bad thing about Knights of the Old Republic, about KOTOR. I mean, maybe people would point out that it could deal with maybe a graphics facelift and some of the controls, but never the story. No one ever, to my memory that I ever talked to, complained about the story on KOTOR.
I don't even think a graphics facelift is necessary per se, because like nostalgia bait is so popular in the gaming world right now. If anything, like tune up the performance a little, reduce the load times, clean up the code, maybe give it the slightest graphics overhaul, but keep that look. People actually gravitate toward it. Like I said, nostalgia bait. Like people will like that. Especially in like horror games, you're seeing a lot of that lately. Like they will intentionally make their game look like a PlayStation 1 game.
Really? Like, I mean, I can see going retro like 8-bit, but I don't really see the nostalgia for the PlayStation 1 like polygon graphics level stuff.
Yeah, but think about this, dude. Like, we're older. But think about the people who are like, 15 years younger than us. That's their nostalgia now.
Welsh, what was your first game system?
PS1.
All right, so you'd be the target demo for this nostalgia. Do you have nostalgia for PS1 graphics? Do you think like do you enjoy like a retro game done in that style of graphic?
I was a big fan of Spyro back in the day. That was a very good game. I really liked the Crash Bandicoot games. They were pretty awesome.
So see those ones were like cell shaded. So
he'd have nostalgia for that.
I know, but my point is, even the people who have nostalgia for like those games, it's the cell shaded, fun looking ones that age pretty well. Like a cell shaded animated game is gonna age well. The polygon.
Now like, think about like the first Resident Evil game. There's a lot of nostalgia for games like that. I've actually when I play the newer Resident Evil games, it's not the graphics that I dislike, but like I do get a little bit of nostalgia for the original game because they're remaking them all, and I personally don't think the remakes are as good as the originals, even with the the incredible graphical overhauls that they get. Like sometimes I just want tank controls and weird wireframes. Okay.
What I mean, look, do people still really like the was it Final Fantasy VII? Was that was the PlayStation 1?
Yes.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
But the graphic, I remember I remember having to play that like on a 4-disc, like the case for it. You had a disc 1, disc 2, disc 3, disc 4.
Okay, first off, Final Fantasy VII only had 3 discs. You're thinking of Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII had 4 discs.
I remember I just changed discs on my PlayStation, and
you have stepped into my wheelhouse now. You better be very careful.
Oh, I'm sorry that I couldn't remember the number of like staggering disc changes that I had to make to play this game. I mean, I'm over here trying to just play Rogue Squadron or Dark Force Rising and Dark Force and enjoy my PlayStation game experience. Or I also lost Soviet Strike. You remember the helicopter attack game where you were in the Apache? Was also really good.
Yeah.
It's weird. In the PlayStation 1 era, I was actually more of a PC gamer because I would play games like Red Alert, Command and Conquer, the StarCraft. It was PlayStation 2 and on where I kind of committed fully to console. But I don't look back
and forth. I mean, RTSs were primarily a PC thing back then, and they were all the rage. They've kind of died off of late.
Well, you couldn't play a real-time strategy without a mouse and a keyboard.
Not effectively.
Not then. Yeah, I still
if you tried.
I still don't think they work without a mouse and a keyboard now. So even the ones that they port to consoles, you have to get those peripherals to be able to do it right. Welsh, did you ever play real-time strategy games?
Not really, not that much.
Yeah, it was like a niche audience, which is interesting because I was that niche and I really enjoyed it. When you were did you play StarCraft, Slender?
Yes.
Did you play as the Zerg?
No, I was Protoss.
All right, because I used to hate going online, and if you didn't pick to be Zerg, you would get just like somebody you were playing online would play Zerg, and they would just breed so fast they would just overwhelm your freaking defense, and so playing online was just annoying. At least that was my experience with StarCraft. I liked playing offline just because I actually enjoyed building the units and taking things over, and you could never do that online.
I mean, the Zergling Rush was definitely popular. You could, as far as Protoss goes, I couldn't tell you how the Terrans deal with it, but if you like really pushed to get Zealots up and running as quickly as possible and upgrade their attack before the first Zerglings hit, like a single Zealot could tear through like 9-10 Zerglings, and you could stave it off. I liked using my little strategy, which I called the toss across, where you would build a pylon in the back of their base and then teleport to it, especially if they didn't know you had built the pylon back there.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. You've got real-time strategy. You've got those mechanics, right? There's always like a proper maximum optimization way to do things, and then there's the fun way, which is if you're playing StarCraft. For me, it was playing as humans and getting the star cruisers and just like flying over and just destroying everything.
I mean, yeah, until I get the carriers.
Yeah. The Protoss had those like anti-aircraft, like crystals.
Yeah, I never used those. They weren't very effective, but the Protoss is their light air-to-air unit had really effective air-to-air missiles. So those shredded.
The kind of missiles that shred. That's the last Boy Scout reference for anyone who's paying attention.
And as far as it goes, like I'm sure at this point, because it's been so long since I've played either, I may very well be mixing StarCraft and StarCraft 2 up at this point.
StarCraft 2, either way, both of those games are probably still being played competitively in South Korea.
Oh yeah.
Man, competitive StarCraft. I saw when in college, they had, when the internet was new, and it was interesting to see still images from other nations before, we were able to have people like Welsh here, who lives in New Zealand, actually on a stream with us talking. But when you'd see these giant, gymnasium size spaces just with tables and full desktop computers, like LAN LAN party style, connected together to just be playing StarCraft with tons and tons of people. And as a nerdy kid, I'm like, man, that sounds like it would be an awesome time. I really want to go and play at a LAN party that's the size of like a gymnasium. I don't know if you were old enough back then, Welsh, because you're probably a little younger, to carry around your whole friggin' PC, your desktop, like the old fashioned heavy ass desktop PCs to a friend's house to do a LAN party.
I never really used to do that, actually.
Yeah, it's a full on super nerd thing to do, to actually carry your full, to disconnect your PC, load it up, drive somewhere with it, then reconnect it. And this is for all our people listening. This is when you had CRT monitors too. Oh, CRT, so the monitor would be another 50 pounds that you'd have to carry if you had a 20-inch monitor. Actually, probably more than that. If it was a 20-inch, it was probably
50 pounds.
Sounds about right?
Yeah, those old CRTs were not light.
Yeah, there's a reason. Was in Die Hard when they strapped it to the chair and was gonna cause an explosion with the electrical charge that was still in the monitor for the C4.
I mean, that's true to a certain extent. If you ever seen the old CRTs, they would warn you, after you've turned it off, there's still a charge in there. Pretty big one, actually.
Yeah, you could kill people with them. That was the thing.
Not so much, but CRTs, oh boy. Yeah, they can shock the shit out of you.
That was a real thing. When you were moving, and for people who are younger and don't understand this, when you were carrying a CRT TV, you might have a parent like mine did tell me, you got to be really careful of that. If that falls on you and breaks, you could electrocute yourself and die. It's oh, really? It has that much charge.
Oh yeah, if that screen pops, you can get a massive discharge of electricity all at once. Now, I mean, they were CRTs, and if you remember, you could drop those things and they barely have a scratch on them. They were built Ford tough or something.
Oh, but when I was in college, I lived on a dorm that was 3 floors up in my freshman year, and I had to carry that thing up and down. Talking about LAN parties. Well, I was so happy when I found out there were other people on the same floor as me who enjoyed playing these games, and since we were on the college computer network, we could just open our doors and yell at each other while we're playing the game, and don't have to go to a room somewhere where we could have to carry everything. It was a joy to not have to carry a CRT monitor. And I had a 27-inch like Sony Wega like TV, the CRT. I was like, this is awesome. This is gonna be a great TV. That thing weighed like 200 pounds because it had
Did
the
you keep that next
speakers
to your
built
zip
in.
drive?
What's that?
Did you keep that next to your zip drive?
Dude, the zip drive was built into my computer, you dick. So the zip drive was an amazing idea that got destroyed because CD burners came out a year and a half later. But I still used my zip drive while I was in college the whole time because I didn't have to, back up on CDs like some, heathen. I could have my zip disk that had 150 megabytes of storage.
Yeah, but I had one of those really cool burners where I could like burn the CD and then I could like also make a label on the other side for it so it looked all cool. I could make my own custom labels. Like mine was an arts and crafts project, okay? Yours was just a boring old zip drive.
Did you use the labels you printed out of your inkjet and then peeled off and stuck on top of the CD, or did you get the CDs where it would actually laser etch?
Yeah, the ones where you could laser etch the other side.
Oh, you tell me that I'm some bougie guy and you had the laser etcher for your CD burner?
Dude, I was like an E-nothing in the military. I had money and what else was I going to spend it on? I was living in a barracks. It's not like I could go get a place that I had to pay for, or living on a ship, which was even worse.
So we're talking about this, and Welsh is probably like, I lived in an era where I just had a flash drive and could just carry that around. Oh, and then because flash drives then turned around and killed CD burners. Like I still have blank CDs because you used to buy them by the spindle. And now I have absolutely no use for them, but I won't get rid of them because I paid money for them.
You can throw those away, or use them as clay pigeons.
So another cool thing that you can do with because when you had a high failure rate with those early burners, you would end up getting like a disc that would just reject out after like 3-4 minutes of trying to burn, and then these were CDRs, so you couldn't overwrite them. And
you're looking at it and you're like, it only burned like the tiniest little ring around the outside.
Yeah, so you're like, what am I going to do with it? You put them in the microwave for like 5 seconds and it like cracks the CD from the heat and everything, and it makes a really cool coaster. So
and they sparkle. They sparkle while they're in there.
Yeah, so I would do that and I'm sure I destroyed my dorm microwave doing that. But I had a nice set of CD coasters for people who came over to the dorm room to put their beverages down on, so that they didn't destroy my furniture.
Well, why don't you do that with the rest of your blanks then?
Because I don't want to. Now it's my microwave. I don't want to have to pay for breaking it. Oh, did you use a CD burner like at all, or were you pure flash drive by the time you were doing stuff?
I don't really know much about that stuff.
Oh, there you go. So that means you just had probably flash drives or portable hard drives by the time you would need anything to do anything. Oh, I feel so nerdy now talking about how I had a whole system about what I would use my failed CDs to do as. But I feel like other people did too, because not everybody could afford the laser etcher cover and the burners that probably had a high success rate. I bet you didn't make a lot of coasters.
I mean, I never made any coasters, but I wouldn't say I had a higher success rate. I would just say, I mean, those things make really fun frisbees if they don't burn real well.
Oh, all right. So you'll like this one, Welsh. This was because you're clearly outside of the age range where this was happening. When CD burners first got big, it was the actual like game manufacturers for PC games didn't expect it to take off as quick as it did, so they didn't actually have any digital copyright stuff built in, so you could copy that disc endlessly.
Wow, that would have been so cool.
So like, yeah, we had one guy who got like Half-Life, and he copied it and he wrote down what the CD key was. And so everybody in the dorm had Half-Life for like whatever the cost of a CD was, which was like a few bucks. Though, and it was to the point where like when you were trying to play it on a LAN like game, because Half-Life was a first-person shooter, you didn't want to be, after about a dozen people, the Half-Life server would lock you out for too many instances of the same like license key being used because clearly you're making copies or you're sharing it or something like that. But it didn't stop. It didn't like permanently block you like these new games would. So when you were playing with your friends in the dorm, you had to be like, I've got to be the one of the first dozen guys to try to log into that game instance. Otherwise, I'm locked out. So because of this, because we were all using the same CD key, and and it was like, okay, that's great, and you didn't have to worry about it. Napster, I was opening, like I was there the second weekend Napster went live, and I watched as it went from terabytes of data, and that was the first time I'd seen terabytes. Like, you heard the term terabytes, but as a regular person, you're like, I've never seen a thing that actually got measured in terabytes. And I was like, oh, it's got 20 terabytes of, like gigabytes. It's got like 20 gigabytes of thing. But within the next day, I saw terabyte. I was like, oh my God, something's gone up. There's terabytes of music and other things available.
Dude, when I was a wee little slender kid, we had a field trip where I think we went to like a robotics facility or something, and they showed us their terabyte hard drives. They were giant rooms, like, and we just looked at those and we were like, "That's a terabyte." I mean, I remember when we were impressed when you could get a gigabyte hard drive, and we were like, "We've reached the pinnacle of computing technology. We're never going beyond this."
Yeah, and I mean, I remember when I got my PlayStation 2, and the day on launch day, I had a day one PlayStation 2, and when I loaded the game in, and I saw the Madden players blink on the sideline, and I was like, "Oh my God, these graphics are amazing!" It's like, no, they were not amazing, but I guess, relative to what I was working with at the time, guys, you're just seeing them blink, and also it had gotten to the point where the animation actually showed individual fingers, which was PlayStation 2 is when they finally started like outlining, like, and having finger movement. That was really crazy to me too, because you remember, was it Resident Evil, the first one? Like, you had a blocky, like almost Lego style hand. Like, it just like opened up and held like the object. It didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil, the first two were like, they were Duplo characters with guns.
Yeah, that's and so I guess it is fun looking back and thinking, like, at the time they were amazingly fantastic graphics. I mean, I guess what was it, the Super Nintendo game, Star Fox, that was like supposed to be the pinnacle of graphics for Super Nintendo, and it was just like outlined blocks of polygons attached together. Like, it didn't even animate like the image in the middle of it. It was like a clear, yeah. It's games have come a long way, and with as great as they can be graphically, it's a shame that they are making such stupid ones. That's what I mean. It's like movies. You have all this technology to make these amazing special effects, and they just, they bomb it on the story. Bombing in the store. Speaking of bombs, I think that's a good transition. We like to talk about ratings, because our streaming ratings come out, and that's one of the things we were kind of starting to talk about a little at the beginning, because we check this out every week. And so we're going to bring up the weekly streaming ratings here. So we've got the streaming ratings for the week of October 10th through 16th, and I believe this is the finale week for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. 8 episodes in, they finally have their finale. They have the big reveal that the dude everybody knew was Sauron, and that the guy that wasn't going to be Gandalf was Gandalf, or nameless wizard who just happened to like hanging out with the not hobbits. So how did they finish? Did they finish strong enough to be the best of ever? No, they didn't. They were week 3 of or 4 of Dahmer was still almost as strong, and they also they got beat by The Watcher on Netflix, which is a show that I don't even think I remember even hearing about.
Oh, here, I hadn't enlarged the screen. Here, I thought that was The Witcher, and I was like, why did The Witcher jump back up to the top?
And maybe people were sad about Henry Cavill leaving and wanting to watch it to remember what it was like to have him in The Witcher. Dude,
yeah, I kind of feel like that series dies with him, because I don't see the new guy pulling it off. Isn't that like Thor's brother?
Liam Hemsworth, definitely not. They should have really got maybe like Jared Butler to come and replace Henry Cavill, or maybe like, everyone was saying, what was his name? He was in Casino Royale, the James Bond villain in Casino Royale, the film.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah. A lot of people pointed to that, would have been okay. A lot of people said that the actor who played Black Bolt in the Inhumans, he could have been another choice for Geralt.
Anson Mount. Yeah, he's currently doing Strange New Worlds he's Captain Pike in that Star Trek show too. I think a lot of people clearly, if you look at what the fans were talking about as an alternate casting, if Henry Cavill was leaving, wanted kind of an older, grizzled character. Like these actors are all older, whereas Liam Hemsworth is going the other direction and seems and as a younger kind of pretty boy. And I don't think that's at all what Geralt's character is, especially as we're continuing the story. I think he was already supposed to be.
Geralt's character is never supposed to be a beautiful guy.
No, he's not. He's supposed to be a very dark, very angry guy who is not very emotional, and yeah.
Yeah, so do you read the books, play the games, Welsh, any of that stuff for The Witcher?
I played The Witcher 3, absolutely love The Witcher 3. I think it's an absolutely awesome game. I watched a video about like what actually happened in the books and like the story and the recap, and it's pretty interesting, The Witcher lore, because a lot of it, is set in Slavic mythology and it takes other elements from other mythologies. But The Witcher 3, in my opinion, is one of the best games. Like, oh man, it's so awesome. Apparently they are going to be doing a Witcher 4, and apparently Ciri is going to be maybe the main character of it. So who knows? Maybe The Witcher 4 will be a prequel set with Vesemir back in his day, but we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, so as a fan, at least of the games, how did you feel about the way the show was adapting the content?
The show was not too bad. I think Henry Cavill, did a very good job. I thought the actress playing, Yennefer was very good. I think there are a few, casting they could have improved. I thought the, casting for Triss wasn't very well done. But yeah, I thought a lot of the monsters, the way they done the monsters was a bit creepy. I think they could have done more of the monsters. They could have had more of, Geralt in it. They could have done a bit more. And it was gruesome, and I do think that there was one scene in season 2 that I found which was really gruesome and really dark. I'm not going to say anything because I do think you guys should go watch The Witcher season 2 and 1. But yeah, there are some things they could have worked on, but apart from that, I think it was okay. It was all right. It had a lot of woke stuff in it, but I think they could have definitely done things better.
All right, well, I haven't seen season 2. I didn't have a whole lot of interest after season 1. My issues with season 1, I thought Geralt was good. I thought Henry Cavill was a damn good Geralt, but you probably shouldn't have called this show The Witcher. You probably should have called it The Witch. Because it's about Yennefer. It's not about Geralt.
Yep, that's true. They did focus a lot about Yennefer, and the way that Yennefer was born was really, really dark. But hey, that's Slavic mythology. A lot of the witches, how they're born in that, it's very, very dark.
Yeah, and then you had Triss Marigold, who went from being modeled after, a Celtic sort of character to
Yep,
we had to
that's true.
continue the ginger side and turn her into somebody who she's not supposed to be.
Yeah, I think. I didn't play the games, and I had a passing knowledge of the books, right? So I wasn't as so when I watched the Witcher show, I was kind of just watching the show as as I guess clean, so to speak. And I still was kind of thought that it was interesting that they called it The Witcher, like Slender said. It didn't seem like it really ever kind of focused on his character. The main character, I know that Ciri is knee deep in the lore and is an important one, for that.
The actress who plays Ciri is really, really good. Freya Allen, really good.
Yeah, and I think they're dynamic. I think when she's on screen with Cavill, it's a really good dynamic, and there's a lot of good story there. I don't like the Yennefer story as much. It didn't really. I just didn't get into it, and I think the show was kind of hurt when it wasn't focusing on Geralt and Ciri and the Witcher stuff. It was much better. It was best when it was doing that content.
If Yennefer could carry a series, they'd have given her own game. They didn't do that.
That's true. I mean, they did have lots of games in that era. I remember Blood Rain and a lot of female-led games, so it definitely could have happened.
Like Gwent got a spin-off before Yennefer did. Because Gwent is its own game now. You can Gwent is the card game that you can play in The Witcher 3.
Yeah. I never really got into the card game mostly that much when I was playing The Witcher 3.
Oh, I'm a huge Final Fantasy VIII fan, so when you throw a card game at me within a game, I go deep. So I was really into it, and then I noticed on Steam there is a Gwent game where you can just not even play The Witcher, just play Gwent.
I don't. So yeah, I don't think that this show is gonna do so. If Henry Cavill was so upset basically after season 3 and where they went that he bailed for season 4, I'm not sure. And then you mix in Liam Hemsworth being the great hope for them to replace him. I'm not seeing it. I don't think it's gonna go so well.
Nah, I agree. My prediction is, and this is completely based on subjective opinions because I didn't even watch seasons 2 or 3. But my
season 3 hasn't come out yet. Season 2, it's up through season 2. They finished filming season 3, and that's where he tapped out.
I think the show is going to continue to struggle.
It will. It definitely will.
I mean, I don't know that there's a lot on, that's a broader question. So Netflix is dominating these streaming charts compared to Prime Video with Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
Or The Boys.
The Boys is off now so the biggest hits that Prime Video had were The Boys, The Terminal List with Chris Pratt, and Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is up there as one of their hits. But here's the thing: is The Terminal List and The Boys cost about probably a quarter at most of what an episode of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power costs. If you're a business and you can get the same return at a quarter
I know,
of the
it's
price,
absolutely ridiculous how much money they put into Lord of the Rings and how we didn't see fights that are on godly level, really done well art. If you're gonna bring Sauron in it, you've got to make fights that are spectacular, especially if you have a budget of $1 billion. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Dude, they couldn't even make the wargs look right, and we saw them in the movies, and they looked amazing.
I know, right? It looks so bad, and you look at like the CGI and the Balrog. They really fucked the Balrog up. Like the Balrog in Lord of the Rings 1 was just so cool. And honestly, man, for that to see what they did to freaking Gandalf, I hate to see what they're gonna do with him season 2. Seriously, Gandalf's character in Lord of the Rings is just Ian McKellen's portrayal of him is probably one of the best acted characters ever done. Like in Lord of the Rings 1 and 2 and 3, just brilliant, just so good. And I just hate what they're doing to all these characters, and like Legolas, and like, you know, what they're doing to Hugo Weaving's character. It's just so stupid, man.
Well, interesting little rumor that's been flying around the interwebs of late is that they may not continue season 2 where season 1 left off. They're already talking about maybe just going, Mulligan, we're going to do a reboot.
Wow.
Well, that's the fun thing when you have a story that over in terms of the actual history and lore takes place over several thousand years. You can do a time jump fairly easily to a different period and go, in this case, we want to right the ship, so we're going to jump forward to when Sauron is kind of more established in Mordor. We're going to have all that stuff going on. It's the Second Age. It doesn't have to only be. So the original plan was to truncate what Tolkien had written took place over hundreds to thousands of years in the course of maybe like a couple years worth of time, for where all these characters who were supposed to be separated by all this time were just going to be scrunched right together. So they did have, I think, more than a lot of showrunners, the ability to, well, these guys get fired. I should say Amazon had the ability to do a course correction where they're just like, peace out, we're doing something different.
Yeah, no, unacceptable. I would prefer an apology for the travesty that they created, and for them to openly announce that it has been struck from canon, and that first season was all just some weird fever dream that Galadriel had while she was asleep. And then we can just pick up from there somewhere.
So you want the Bobby Ewing ending?
Yeah, I want you to negate that ending. You did it with She-Hulk, right? Like She-Hulk's whole thing was like she just rewrote the whole thing and said none of that shit ever happened. I would like that with this, because I don't like living in a world where Rings of Power is canon of any kind.
So you know what I'm talking about with Bobby Ewing, right? So this is
but I got so spun up that
Bobby
I'm not
Ewing. Who's that? Who's that?
All right, so I'm gonna show you. We're gonna stop sharing our Nielsen ratings because I'm gonna show you. This is a famous television moment. You've heard of the show Dallas, right? No, it's Dallas.
Oh, okay, Dallas.
I think I've heard of it before.
All right, so in Dallas, the main family that it followed were the Ewings. They were oil family out of Dallas, Texas. And in one of the seasons, at the end of the previous season, they killed Patrick Duffy. He was a main character. He was Bobby Ewing's. He was the Ewing brother to the lead, which is JR. And so they kill him off, and it doesn't go over well with fans. So this is how they decided to kind of just address it when they wanted to come back and kind of right the ship. So this is the moment, right? So she was sleeping. Everybody can hear all right? So she's sleeping. She hears something going on in the bathroom. Like, what's going on? This is different. This is strange. Opens the door to the shower, and there's Bobby Ewing.
Morning.
and that was the season finale of that like season.
That is
and,
a fucking cringe. That is such a cringy ending.
But do you know how they fixed it? This is the best part. It was the entire preceding season was just her dream.
Wow.
It was just a dream. It was just a dream she had, and he was alive just waking up, taking a shower. So none of that happened. They just, it's the ultimate course correction because the fans of the show just hated what they were doing. So they were like, F it. It never happened. It was a dream. And you see him shower. So this is a joke thing that gets, it gets referenced a lot in like The Simpsons makes jokes about it. A lot of shows made jokes about it where somebody wakes up and sees the other character in the shower and it was all just a dream because it was such a crazy, stupid way of doing it. And they just went with it. And then Dallas went on like another 10 seasons. But it was like, it's crazy, right? Like, do you think that, could you ever get away with doing something like that today? I don't even know. I think the
total side note here, Chad. I'm in your Twitter, and yeah, a lot of people do like the old graphics from the PS1 era, according to the responses here.
I figured it worked. We had people like who seemed to like it.
I mean, Neon doesn't seem to think so. He copped out. He said they worked with what they had, but like,
I think that Neon's probably right around the same age I am. So we were probably we played Atari, Nintendo, and we had a solid bit of video game before we got to PS1. So the PS1 graphics were in advancement, but I was around long enough. I did
too, but I still love that. It's fun, and like I said, it's nostalgia bait, yes. But like sometimes I like to go back and play an old 8-bit game. Sometimes I literally like I can see the era in the game that I'm playing. Like I can see the 8-bit games when I go back and play Link's Adventure because I love Link's Adventure. I know a lot of people didn't like that one. I enjoyed it.
Was that the second one?
That's the second one.
Oh, that one was ass.
Nah, it's good. It's just very different. It's definitely not this. It's not
very different because it was just what they did with like with Mario Brothers 2, where they took a completely different game and just reskinned it to be Mario.
But I like Mario Brothers 2 as well. Like that one was fun to me.
Well, Mario Brothers 2 did introduce a lot of stuff that became core elements of their game later.
Core mechanics.
Well, I'm talking about characters too, like Birdo. You got Toad. Right, Toad was introduced in Mario Brothers 2.
Well, Toad was technically in the first Mario Brothers. He was at the end of the castles that the princess wasn't in.
Well, as a playable character, you had there's a lot of it, like the Shy Guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shy Guys made their debut in Mario lore in
yes, they did.
Mario Brothers 2. So.
But like you can see the era in the game you're playing. Like if you're playing a Super Nintendo game, you know that the 16-bit era, you can see that difference. You can kind of see PS1, PS2, you didn't see huge improvements in the graphics, but you can tell. Like because like I started on Atari as well. Like Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, all of them. I've played them all, and there is a bit of a nostalgia.
Did you know anybody who had a ColecoVision?
I did not know anyone who had a ColecoVision.
Yeah,
but when I was in high school, my uncle gave me his old Commodore 64, and I got that working again.
I know, but I hear people talk about ColecoVision, these other ones. I never met anybody who had one. I knew tons of people had 2600s.
Yeah, like I've heard of ColecoVision. I ain't never fucking seen one.
By the way, the Atari 2600 was objectively one of the more amazingly like of the era things. It had like the friggin' wood paneling. It's so 70s. It's 70s, early 80s. It's like it's like that Magneto meme for like perfection for what the game system of that era should look like.
Imagine pimping out a station wagon with the wood paneling and then hooking up the Atari in there with the wood paneling.
Well, I'm sure because they've reissued it. Did you ever play a 2600 like a genuine one?
Yeah.
2600. I don't think I remember that game before.
Oh no, it's not
it's a system.
It's the Atari 2600 game system.
Space Invaders. I remember playing a shitload of Space Invaders on it.
I'm not too sure.
So I'm going to show you an image, like, because once you see it, you should. Let's see.
You will know it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're too young.
All right, I'm going to share because this, like I said, and when you see it, if you haven't played it before, you'll be. I think you should be able to immediately recognize like the era it came from, just by looking at it. So tell me this is not like the ultimate late 70s, early 80s looking game system. Look at that thing. It's got wood paneling, man.
Video computer system.
It looks very 90s to me, to be honest, rather than 80s.
90s? No.
Oh, you're such a young gentleman. You make me feel old.
This was retro in the 90s.
It looks, actually, I don't know, to me it looks 90s.
You know what's really awesome? My favorite part is like you remember this part, that switch where you could actually set it to be black and white or color so that it would be optimized for whether you had a black and white TV or a color TV.
Oh, actually, now I see it properly. Yeah, it does look 80s, to be honest.
You know how you could modernize this? You turn the switches into a touch screen and you change the fake wood to carbon fiber.
Yeah, they should definitely absolutely make like a remake edition. Like have it like in a way like this as a controller for like other big consoles.
I think that Atari was crowdfunding a new system, and it was designed to be basically a modern-y, sleek version of that. Let's see, the Atari VCS.
Dude, you know what I want to get? Nintendo, because they are so good at just milking money out of me for shit that I've already played. Like, remember when they made the little mini NES and the mini Super Nintendo that you could just plug into your TV and go, and it had like every Nintendo game and every Super NES game?
Yeah. That was a good console, man. That was really awesome. That was.
I need to get some of those.
So here, look, this Atari crowdfunded and shipped like this. This is their.
That looks like a fucking modem.
Atari on.
More than 40 years ago.
See, they did what you said.
Into our living rooms.
They put they put the screen into it.
We're ready to reopen that portal and introduce a brand new Atari product inspired by.
Oh my god, I recognize those games.
And engineered for today. Introducing the Atari VCS.
2600 was just meteor from another planet.
They still have the fake wood on the front.
Not only was this sort of a video.
Why wouldn't you though?
But
I mean,
was turning
look at that. Look, it's got the wood paneling behind it.
It was like
asteroids
transported into the future. Something magical happening on the TV.
Oh, I've played every one of these games.
Missile defense.
Kind of come back and take what they did well and reimagine that for this new generation that are playing games differently, consuming media differently, having different social experiences around this type of media.
It's taking everything we loved about that first sort of simple retro Atari experience, the first time we used it, and bringing it into a modern context, which is a bit more complex.
I think they are making available with the old.
You bring it into a modern context with an Xbox controller? Come on, Atari.
Of classic Atari games on it, but there's more to it than that. Modern games will be there too, along with social media, streaming video, music.
Honestly, that's the one thing I always give PlayStation over Xbox is I think PlayStation makes a better controller because I hate that the Xbox controller offsets the analog sticks.
Not just another box to shove.
I don't like the offset. I know there's people who swear by it.
No, I would prefer them to be symmetrical.
Spins and angles. We looked at taking each of those core components and evolving it for a next generation.
I mean, I use my Xbox a hell of a lot more than my PlayStation just because.
So with the
Xbox has better games,
but
we
were looking at that detail and started talking about what
I've never gotten used to the offset analog stick. It's just not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the PlayStation control is probably, and I'm biased because I guess I was always a PlayStation gamer, is the most comfortable to play long term, especially first person shooters for me. Like the DualShock, once they added the dual analog sticks, I mean it's the best control. I mean, what do you think, Welsh? Do you have a favorite system control?
Xbox 360 had a pretty cool controller.
The 360 was the one where they went a little chunkier with the wedge, right? Where it got a little
PS4 is pretty cool. I'd have to say maybe I really like the Xbox 360. Even though I'm a PlayStation guy, I still think the Xbox 360 had the coolest controller.
No, I can see why. I know a lot of people, especially guys who are really into Halo, who swear by that control, swear by the chunky wedge, and I don't know. I think the DualShock. Now, I have not had any experience with the PlayStation 5 version of the DualShock because God knows you can't even find a PlayStation 5 anywhere.
No, it's absolutely sold out, especially like with God of War 5 coming out. That is absolutely just sold it out to the roughs.
I don't know why. You can get God of War on the PlayStation 4, if I remember correctly. Like,
yeah, you can. That's true. You can definitely
get the better version on the PS5 or whatever. But honestly, I am still kind of confused as to why Sony and Microsoft felt they needed to release a new generation of console, because the new generation of console ain't that much fucking better than the previous generation. Like, a little better performance, but honestly, and this is why PC is the master race. If I want a little more performance out of my computer, I can just like drop some more RAM in. I don't have to buy a whole new box. And if I do have to buy a whole new box, it better be a damn good machine by comparison. And it's really not. The specs aren't that much better.
I think, the whole like ray tracing and some of these other new features that are supposed to make it far more enhanced, I'm not a fan of. I also I don't like them removing the physical drive. I think they're clearly trying to go there. The PlayStation has two models. You know, you have the driveless one, the all digital PlayStation 5 without an optical drive, or you can pay the extra and get the optical drive. But especially with console gaming, my experience is, I like having the optical drive. I like being able to have physical media. I don't like what they can do when they can just make games go away from your digital library.
Yeah, because I mean, what happens the day they find our podcast and they go, "You're a bigot. We're locking you out of our service," and then you can't play any of your games anymore?
Oh no, I can't play. I don't even know. I mean, I play Modern Warfare. I need to have that available. And I'm talking, not the new one, although apparently that one is making bank like it always does. Activision with the money. Oh wait, no, who owns Activision now? Xbox.
Thing, dude,
Xbox earning the money.
Yeah, but when I'm sorry, but like when a Modern Warfare game comes out, when any of those games come out, yes, they're going to make money. That doesn't mean they're going to be any good. Like, unfortunately, and I've played dozens of, Medal of Honor, what's the other one? The Modern Warfare, I forget what the...
Call of Duty.
Yeah, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty. I've played dozens of those games at this point. And to be honest, more of them are shit than are good.
Well, they usually turn out good when they take a few years and make a really solid one. And then once the parent company decides they have to start pumping out a game every year, they get an issue. Like, I think, what is it, Battlefield? Yeah. Battlefield had a couple years where it was fantastic. Like, Battlefield, the World War I Battlefield game was awesome.
Yeah, I heard that was very, very good. Battlefield 1. That was very, very good. The one ones.
I also really like the way they did the campaign. So for people who haven't played Battlefield 1, instead of one campaign where you followed a soldier and were one character, they did vignettes so that you got a flavor of the war across the entire world. So in one level, our campaign mission, your soldiers at at the front lines in France, storming into across no man's land. In another, I think it was Gallipoli, where you were playing as a like a runner, a scout, an Australian scout, like as Gallipoli's just getting destroyed. It was a way to really get, like, there was missions where you were at like the Suez like zone where you're taking on the Ottomans, and it really gave you a flavor for the different soldiers fighting because you were.
All right, but I think you're mixing in extra stuff in there. That might be part of a more content. I agree. I think Battlefield 1 was a hell of a lot of fun, and it was a really good and well-made, high production value game. The only issue I had with it was there wasn't a lot of game there. Like, very minimal content for a full price AAA title. And then I think a lot of the extra content that they tacked on was like, oh, well, you can pay for more of this. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't give me $60 worth of this to begin with. Why should I pay for this extra shit?
For Battlefield 1, yeah, there was $60 worth of content there.
Nah.
Yeah, there was.
I played the
shit out of the game.
I rolled through that game in half a Saturday.
Did you go and play online though? Did you play, like?
No, online play sucked, and the connection to the network was unstable as hell. Maybe they fixed that up after a few weeks, but the first
I think you just had terrible internet. I mean, I had FiOS at the time.
I had FiOS too,
and it was perfect. It worked.
The sticks, man.
It never had a problem. It was I was on like the 64 person like giant war maps, and it was what I loved about Battlefield were the friggin' maps were so big on those levels. You actually had to get in a vehicle just to get somewhere at the beginning, until like once people took command points and you could spawn there, you were okay. But at the beginning, when you had to get to the first set of things, you're like, I need to hop on a motorcycle or a plane or a tank just to start moving quick enough to get there before everybody else does.
I will say that's the other problem with the Battlefield games.
The maps are too big?
No, going into online play, there's a huge barrier to entry because the people who play online, they fucking love Battlefield, and they're going to fuck your world. Like, I was a casual Battlefield player. Battlefield 1 was the first one I actually played. And man, when I went online, they fucked my world. Like, I don't even know who shot me 90% of the time, but somebody did.
Well, just because you were getting pwned by noobs, it's not my fault.
Well, I was also playing on a console, so I was using a controller, and I can't FPS competitively with a controller. I need a keyboard and mouse.
Well, if you're playing other people on a console, it's fine. Just learn the console controls. If you've been playing first-person shooters for consoles, they all function basically the same.
They do, but it's less conducive when you generally play long range. Like, I snipe. Sniping is what I'm good at. You can't snipe with a controller. You just can't.
Well, in Call of Duty, you got those people who are doing the aim assist one-shotting. I'm not sniping on consoles is a
it's not easy at all. It's absolutely fucking difficult, especially when you're trying to shoot someone properly. Like, I remember Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 back in the day when I used to play that, man, and trying to snipe someone was just irritating.
Yeah, the reason I liked Battlefield better was because when I was if somebody who was actually really good as a sniper was on the level, and it would piss you off normally, especially in Call of Duty, because you're just getting snipe, and you don't even have time to enjoy the game. At least in Battlefield, you can friggin' like drive a plane into it, or you can just put C4 at the bottom of the building or wherever they're at and just destroy what they're doing.
Or since the maps are so huge, you can just go somewhere else.
Exactly. I'll just get out of the zone. I'll spawn on an entire other section. If they're at Delta, I'm gonna go, over in Gamma or whatever. Like, you're gonna have a good time. So I actually enjoyed I used to love and I still play it now, the reissue, the remaster, like, of Modern Warfare 1 and Modern Warfare 2 that they put out, the ones from the early aughts that they remastered. Those were great Call of Duty games. Call of Duty
Who was
started
your
sucking.
favorite character in Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 1?
Like, you mean the like storyline characters?
Yeah, storyline characters.
Soap. I think
I like the guy who was in charge of the group, the one who was always talking to
Captain
Soap.
Price. Captain Price was pretty cool.
Yeah, Price was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess it would be John Soap McTavish, who was the lead.
Now, that said, I liked Modern Warfare 1. I think Modern Warfare 2 was where I actually got pissed off because I played them on PC, and I believe after Modern Warfare 1, the next one they made was the first time that they decided, well, we're going to build it for console and port it to PC instead of the other way around. And they did not know how to port to PC because they fucked it all up on the PC side.
Oh, man.
Probably, yeah. When you make something idealized for console, it's not going to work out as well just because.
Yeah, because I remember because I played online. I was a competitive player, and like for the Modern Warfare 2, like the matchmaking system was broke as fuck. You would get like hung up in queues to try and get into a match for just like it could take 20-30 minutes before you finally got a match, and then 5 minutes.
Yeah, that is true. Like, it did take a long time in Call of Duty. Like, I remember watching my friends play it, and it took ages for them to find a match. How many 25 kill streak? Like, how many 25 kill streaks did you guys manage to get? Did you ever manage to do that once?
On Modern Warfare 2?
Yeah.
No.
Because when you get 25 kill streaks, you get the tactical nuke.
Oh yeah, I did that several times.
I'm sure I did it once or twice because I do remember getting tactical nukes.
Not to toot my own horn, but I was when I was obsessed with that game when it first came out. I was top 500 on the leaderboard. That's still plenty of people ahead of me who could do well, but that's I don't think so. I had my fair share of like 33-1 type games and things like that. And yeah, when you got the tactical nuke, I didn't like using it because I liked playing. Like usually if I had a kill streak going that far, the game was I was just clearly trouncing the people I was playing, and I didn't want to use my tactical nuke because I didn't want the level to end. I wanted to get my kill numbers up. I wanted to that's the thing. Like when you're that high, when you're killing people at that high, that kill death number, you're like thinking, especially I was thinking of the leaderboard. I was like, man, this is gonna be great. This is gonna help me move up a spot or two from if I have a few rounds like this tonight. And then I never wanted to leave that. I hated right after that match if the people all started bailing. You're like, no, I wanted to crush you guys another 2 rounds. Please don't leave.
Well, and that was part of the problem with on the PC side. Like you would spend that time waiting to get a match, and if you started dominating, they'd all just drop, and then it'd end the match. So like you wait 20, 30 minutes to get a match, and then like 2.5 minutes into the match, they've already quit, and you're back in queue, waiting for another match.
Yeah. It was, the matchmaking was a little bit of a problem. And then once people started breaking the game, the ones who had found the exploits and the cheats, that's when it just really went south. When you had people like shooting you from like off screen where you couldn't even be able to shoot them.
And that's where it really started to rise to power, the whole hacking the game thing. Like those cheats were never as big a deal up until FPSs really started to come into their own.
I just hate it. Like once, like you'd know because it would start hitting online that there was an exploit, and then you'd start having to deal with the people going into, especially when they found like the spots, where the game was broken and they could go off map and still kill you or something.
Yeah, I'll clip into the floor and then I'll use this this aimbot to just shoot everybody directly in the head, regardless of where they are.
Yep. So frustrating. I can't even, for people who I don't know, is like, have they cleaned that up? I haven't played any of the newer ones. That's not really a problem in the like remastered versions. People aren't hacking those ones so much because they don't care as much. So I would imagine it may still be a problem for. Plus, they started IP banning, which was another thing. That I remember when that first started, like when people would try to report you if they didn't like that you were beating them in the game, so that you would get your IP banned from playing online.
Yeah, I mean, I think that shit still happens to a certain extent, but I don't know. Hopefully on the the response side, they're doing a better job. I mean, the only really thing that I play competitively, and I haven't played in a while at this point, is probably Smite. And Smite is always a funny one because I don't know how many times people have hit me up with the private messages on Xbox to tell me to uninstall, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know you.
Yeah, like the people who would start like yelling at you for cheating when you're like, no, I just beat you. It's terribly. Don't.
No, I mean, I've got that too. I've definitely been accused of cheating, especially in Smite, because I'm actually pretty damn good at that game. But no, I'll get people on my own team that hit me up and tell me to uninstall, and I'm like, I was playing the Guardian. Like, you were the one who was supposed to be getting kills, and we lost because you didn't get any kills. I was playing the guy who was supposed to keep you from dying, but when you run away and get into your own fucking fights without me, then you die. Like there's because I don't know if you've ever played MOBAs, but Smite is kind of a MOBA, and there's kind of three things you can be in that game. You can be the tank, you can be the DPS, or you can be kind of the support / healer type. I usually play the tanky type. Like, my dude's not going to do a lot of damage. He's probably not going to shore up kills on the other players, like on the enemy players. My dude just gets in there, disrupts, and tries to lock them down so that they're not killing my players while my players are killing their players. But so many times we've had just like a horrible loss, and I'll get the message afterwards that I should uninstall, and I'm like, and then I go back and I look at their numbers, and I'm like, you did shit, dude. Like, you did terrible, and you're telling me to uninstall just because I didn't get enough kills for your liking? I'm playing a tank. My job wasn't to get kills.
Yeah, that was at Battlefield where I would usually rock the medic class because it was a really good way to get like experience points because you could constantly just drop those med packs and heal people. And if you wanted,
and it's not based on how many enemies you're taking out.
Yeah, so it's a really good way to get your level up so you can start unlocking things. But the problem is you got people like when you're trying to heal them, like especially so in Battlefield, like you could stay there and you could get healed and revived, or you could basically quick kill yourself so that you could respawn. And I'd be running over so I could get the heal, and it's big experience. And people would just like quick, they would just kill themselves so that they could respawn. I'm like, God dang it! I was going to get so many points from doing that. That's how you stop doing that. I'm playing medic, man. That's why I'm playing as the medic. If you wanted to play just solo, you should have gone solo. We talked a long time, man. This is good stuff.
I feel like it flowed. It flew by.
Yeah. Do you have a good time, Welsh? We were talking about gaming, enjoying good times, getting trounced on Call of Duty when we were by people sniping us. It was a good time.
No, it was a good time. I'm not very good at group conversations, and sorry if I was a bit awkward, but
no. Well, everybody who's listening, just want to let you know I posted the link for Welsh's channel. He does great, normally one-on-one interview podcast type content, where he's talking with people who are very interesting. He's a good follow and good show, so people should go over there and watch that. We did not get to Wakanda Forever tonight, but that thing is going to be interesting, and we'll have probably some much better follow-up information when we do our episode next week.
Can I actually bring something up about Wakanda Forever?
Oh yeah, we got time if you want to. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So I remember back in 2019 when they did the announcement for Wakanda Forever for Black Panther 2, and I remember like when a lot of people during like 2019 and 2020 before Chadwick Boseman died, a lot of people had an idea of getting the guy from 28 Days Later to play Doctor Doom, and a lot of people had the idea of Luke Evans becoming like Namor, which would have absolutely been spectacular. And I feel would it been cool if you had Chadwick Boseman still alive, him as Black Panther, you have the guy from 28 Days Later playing Doctor Doom, and you have like a war between Wakanda and Atlantis in that film with Luke Evans. Oh, that would have been so good.
Oh my gosh, Luke Evans would have been great casting for Namor. That actually, I hadn't heard that one before, but thinking about it, that would have been fantastic.
A lot of people wanted it. You saw a lot of it, and I thought it would have been very awesome to see like Wakanda go up against Atlanta, and you could have had like Doctor Doom appear in his first thing, and you could have like pretty much, like how Black Panther was, because in the first MCU, you know how like you had the trilogy being like for Captain America and Iron Man. Like the next trilogy was supposed to be basically like Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and I think maybe another person. What you could have done is you could have had Chadwick Boseman pretty much, and Doctor Doom, like Doctor Doom be the Thanos, the nightmare for Black Panther, just how Thanos was like the nightmare for Iron Man. And I think that would have been very cool. And then when you have Avengers Secret Wars at the time, when like Doctor Doom like gets the God power up, like he does in Secret Wars, you then have like, Black Panther getting the Infinity Gauntlet and fighting like Doctor Doom in the Secret Wars thing, which would have been very awesome. That actually happens in the comics, by the way.
Nice. I mean, I think that would, yeah. What you're saying is a movie I would have already been. It's Thursday night. I would have blown off our podcast and been there watching it. So
no, you would not have.
We'll see you might have. Well, that's right. You don't go out to movies though, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the last movie I think I watched in theaters was The Dark Knight. And I like that one so much. I went and saw it a second time.
Long time, man. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I like being able to sit on my couch and eat a giant bowl of popcorn that didn't cost me $15 to buy, and pause the movie if I gotta go take a piss. And I've got a big old 60-inch TV downstairs, so I just watched on that. I'm patient. I can wait until it comes to a streaming service.
Yeah, I mean, I've got as good a home theater set up as anybody, and I'm pretty comfortable. I'm still going in and enjoying. When it's a movie that's worth my time, that's the key thing.
Yeah, but the problem is, I'm playing the law of averages at this point, and it appears as though most of the movies, even the ones that I want to see, end up being not worth that time. Now, there's exceptions. There are some that have turned out to be not bad or even pretty good, but nothing that it's like, oh, I gotta go see this in theaters. Since Dark Knight, there hasn't really been anything that I was like, oh, I gotta go see this in theaters.
I mean, Top Gun Maverick.
I knew they were gonna fuck up the Star Wars movies. I knew that way before anyone had to, come back and tell me they'd fucked them up.
Top Gun Maverick was a pretty good movie. Pretty good to watch in the theater.
Yeah, but I mean, I served on a carrier for 5 years, dude. Why would I go watch that shit when I lived it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess it would be a little less entertaining if you were actually, involved with.
I mean,
with
admittedly,
doing that stuff.
I never flew an aircraft, but like, I was down there working on the LSO platform. I was making sure their comms were good. I was watching the planes come in for a landing, and I was like, if that thing bangs 15 feet to the left, we're all dead. Like, there's not a lot of room for error when you're on that carrier.
They're actually talking about the Top Gun director actually doing Man of Steel 2, by the way.
That would be. I think he'd be a good fit. Maybe
Is
with
that the one where they're bringing back Cavill, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'm for it.
And I'm hoping that they do Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. I just want to see the nightmare sequence and him be able to do it. I've told little Chad about this like loads of times. Like, I know a lot of people are kind of iffy with Zack Snyder, but I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like, it for me was like the childhood, of watching Justice League when I was young. It was so well done, so brilliant. The artwork is just, like 300, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like 300. I think we can, because we're friends. We'll agree to disagree on Zack Snyder's Justice League because I have a lot of problems with it.
I like 300
mainly because Superman Zack Snyder just is not a good fit with Superman. That's the main character.
Think that the Justice League's the Snyder cut, right? We're talking about the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it made it any better. I didn't think it made it any worse, and I didn't think Justice League was terrible to begin with. It wasn't great, but it was fun.
Oh god, the Joss Whedon's Justice League was so bad. But you know what? Ben Affleck as Batman, bro, he was the best Batman there's ever been. Like, fucking dark, so good. They're actually talking.
I'm a Christian Bale fan myself. I do think Ben Affleck was a better Bruce Wayne.
Really? Wow. He was much darker. Well, Ben Affleck's Batman is more comic book accurate, and Christian Bale's Batman is more, realistic. What is your favorite scene from The Dark Knight, Slender Dad?
My favorite scene from The Dark Knight is probably I would say it's the what is it? The fundraiser where Joker throws the old girl off the roof.
Oh yeah.
God, that was dumb,
I just thought it was hilarious when he's like, "Let her go," and he's like, "Ooh, poor choice of words, Batman."
Yeah. Oh no.
That or what was it? When he's actually standing in the road and he keeps telling him, "Do it. I want you to do it. I want you." Like, you're getting so much of Joker's character in that moment. Like, because that's what Joker wants.
Oh,
like,
Heath
I
Ledger
want
is the
you to
king
break
of the
your one
Joker.
rule. I want you to kill me.
He is the best Joker there's ever been, by far.
Yeah, Heath Ledger nailed it. Like, it was absolutely amazing how he portrayed the Joker in that.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those. I was kind of nervous when they cast Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, the guy from A Knight's Tale? Really?
Exactly. So he's, and I like A Knight's Tale. I mean, that part wasn't the problem. It was more like 10 Things I Hate About You.
He just didn't strike me as someone who could play the Joker. Like, it just didn't seem like it was within his wheelhouse.
Yeah, and he crushed it. Now, obviously, he clearly had issues.
Yeah, crushed it a little too hard, perhaps.
Yeah, and I know there's some people, because he was sort of, I guess, a method actor, and I know there was talk that playing that role and getting so deep into the role of the Joker kind of helped push the demons he had personally further along, and I can sort of see that. I mean, it's not a role that's going to sit well with somebody. Like if you're a method actor and you want to inhabit the Joker role, that probably is going to mess you up a little bit.
Yeah. If you're playing a villain, you should almost definitely not be a method actor.
Yeah, I think that is the safest. Like don't try to inhabit and understand and live in that character, because it's not healthy. Not at all. But I mean, so as much as I love that, I enjoyed Christian Bale for the performance he did, which was James Bond as Batman, because that's what Christopher Nolan wanted to do. He wasn't really, like, I think Welsh was right that the comic book, the more comic book accurate to a degree Bruce Wayne personification was that, and also even in the Batman with Robert Pattinson, that was, I think, a more I mean that movie's okay, decent.
Yeah.
But
the Batman,
that was a kind of comic book accurate. I mean, what do you think, Welsh?
Oh, the Batman was very good. It's funny because the Batman of Robert Pattinson, like when it first came out, and there was a lot of images. I'm on a DC fan group on my Facebook, and do you know what's so funny, guys? Is that Robert Pattinson's Batman looks exactly like Ben Affleck's Batman. You wouldn't think that, but like when you look at the picture, it's like Robert Pattinson's Batman is year 1 Batman, and like Ben Affleck's Batman is year 20 Batman. And in a way, like Robert Pattinson's Batman is very dark. He's very elusive, even though technically they do have cell phones in their world. Yeah. But yeah, I think the Batman, Robert Pattinson's was following Batman year 1. It was following a lot of his early years. I think I thought the guy who played the Riddler was absolutely fantastic. I think he was probably the best Riddler there's ever been. I also think that it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the new Joker. And I'm looking forward to the next Batman film with Robert Pattinson. I think, there's been rumors that they might bring, Mr. Freeze. There's a lot of fan posters of like Daniel Craig being cast as Mr. Freeze. And yeah, we'll see. Who would you like to see be the villain of the Batman 2?
So given
actually, sorry, little Chad. There's actually a secret ending where if you go on, do you know like the Riddler's code, right?
Yeah. Is that the one where you see the Joker talking to him at Arkham?
No. So like how the Riddler, you can go on this website and how the Riddler has the secret code. Apparently, the secret code actually goes to the secret villain of Batman. Oh, I can't remember his name. He's the one. He's the villain that has like the bandages all over his head. What was his name?
Oh, Hush.
Yeah, Hush. Yeah, he was teased. That was a very cool, thing.
Yeah, Hush makes sense as because the Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves as the director and writer, that version of Batman is trying to be very grounded. I mean, as grounded as it can be and still have Batman. So Hush would be the kind of villain that you would go for, if that's the case, because he's grounded, he's in there, like he's a psychological, like it seems like Matt Reeves wants to lean into psychologically based villains more than like the fantastical ones, because especially with what he did with Riddler.
Mm-hmm. The Mad Hatter would be very good. I think Mr. Pig would be, Piggy the Butcher, whatever his name is, would be very good. Azrael would be pretty cool, I think, as a villain for that. And yeah, I think also Doctor Strange, the Batman version of Doctor Strange. There actually is another Doctor Strange.
The one who ran Arkham for a while.
You know what I'd like to see, but I mean, it's technically not a Batman villain. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see him go up against Deathstroke.
Yes, that's what they wanted for Ben Affleck's Batman. They wanted him to go up against, like, what they were planning to do with Ben Affleck's Batman. They were like, there was rumors. So basically they were going to make it like, it was going to be a movie. and then they were going to have it as a series, and they were basically going to have the first few series of the episode be like Ben Affleck exploring his trilogy and stuff, and you were going to have him fight Mr. Freeze, he was going to fight Firefly, he was going to fight Bane, and he was going to fight Red Hood, and why not get the boys actor who played Soldier Boy as Red Hood? That would have been perfect. And
he also did the voice for Red Hood in one of the animated movies. That's really good.
Yeah, and it would have been much awesome. And I think what would have been really cool is you have like Deathstroke, like would have got all these guys to pay him. Like basically what they would have done with Ben Affleck's Batman, they would have taken elements from Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins, Under the Red Hood, put it into one series, and then it was supposed to be like Deathstroke was supposed to be like playing mind games with Batman. And what was going to happen is you were going to get this epic fight between him and like Deathstroke. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, because in all honesty, and a lot of people, I guess normies might not know this, but like, although Marvel is killing DC as far as the live actions go, like DC's animated movies, like their animated full length feature films, are fucking good. Like they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's they kind of relaunched it, so there's a few different universes of their DC animated one, but you can watch. There's basically a chronological order where there's about 12 or 13 movies that kind of are set solidly in the same narrative universe. That culminates with, I think, like the Apocalypse War, which was a really dark animated movie that focused on John Constantine.
Constantine.
Yeah, Constantine? What?
I'm sorry that I pronounced it properly.
Uh-huh. By which standard? Because we've got myself, who is, kind of a grammar Nazi to begin with, and then we've got Welsh, who, could put the accent on it, and neither of us is saying Constantine.
That is pretty funny, to be honest. Constantine could be like a character of a person, to be honest.
Yeah, all right. He could hang out with Clementine, and
it's said to rhyme with wine, so there you go. It's Constantine. Neil Gaiman, let's see. Not that Neil Gaiman is the favorite person right now. In the comics, he pronounced him Constantine, and people who pronounced him Constantine either did it through ignorance or to tease him, like Mad Hattie. On TV and films, it's the other way around.
Yeah. I didn't actually know that. Wow. Well, thanks for correcting us with that. That's pretty cool.
No, I don't care. Constantine sounds stupid.
I'm sorry that you're a heathen who can't adjust to being told a factually correct answer.
No, it's all good. It doesn't bother me. I actually think it's funny.
No. Welsh, you were fine. That was 100% directed at my co-host. 100%. No, I'm kidding. So, but that's a good place to leave. I think to wrap it up with the fact that I was right and Slender was wrong. Just like I was right about ReZero being an epic masterpiece of an anime that everybody should enjoy, and he was 100% wrong saying it was not. I like to reiterate that point as well. Although
I'm ignoring you. I'm looking up things. I'm looking up the etymology of the name Constantine.
Although I will say that Slender was
Constantine good. As a boy's name, also used as a girl's name, is pronounced Constantine. It is of Latin origin, and the meaning of Constantine is constant/steadfast.
You know that it's not his first name.
So just because they pronounced the fucking name wrong doesn't mean that the etymology was correct on their pronunciation.
I'm going to trust Neil Gaiman more than I'm going to trust you.
I'm going to trust the Latin origin that it came from.
Funny. Oh man.
There's a friggin' panel. I'm gonna like blow it up for you so that you can see it, because we're gonna I'm not ending with you thinking you're right.
And again, this is because Neil Gaiman apparently didn't know how to read the fucking name and mispronounced it when he created it.
Because Garth Ennis, like, here we go. Like, this is a panel. Look, you're John Constantine. Tyne Constantine. They're showing you in the comic, he's correcting the pronunciation for you.
Yes, and since he is based on a true character and not made up by someone else who clearly didn't know how to pronounce the name when he wrote the story.
This is panels written by fucking people from England. Slender.
The original Latin, Constantine. Height of his popularity was in 1885.
Imagine if they called him Constantine.
Yeah.
Constantine.
It's Constantine. That's the proper pronunciation. It has been from the comic books. I'm going to say it that way. Now, Keanu Reeves one is John Constantine. So, because I'm still hopeful we're going to hear more about that sequel soon, hopefully, because I'm actually excited.
Well, I sure as fuck hope they don't call him Constantine.
Well, that ship has sailed. That would have been his name if they pronounced it properly from the comics then, but they didn't, so we can live with it. It's Constantine over in that one.
And you've admitted it. We can close out the stream now. I win.
So you are correct in Keanu universe. I'm correct in all other. So we can close out the stream.
I'm also correct in the universe we currently exist in.
All right. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. We'll see everybody next week to find out more about how I'm right and Slender's wrong.
Uh-huh.
Broadcast